Hi, scholars. This afternoon's lecture is our mini lecture number 11. It deals with personal safety or personal safety awareness and personal safety planning. Really, there are three parts, and I talked a little bit about it yesterday, but the first thing I want to bring up to you is this. In all personal safety situations, one of the words that I want you to be thinking of is proactivity. In terms of learning and understanding what that means, is every time you put yourself in a situation in life where you may be new, it may be what you feel is more dangerous than others, or it could be something that you've never gone through before. What is best to do is do some type of kind of safety analysis. And I'll give you an example. As a physical education teacher, every activity that I do in class, or I do in the weight room, or I do outside, or wherever it may be, prior to doing that, I do some type of safety analysis or kind of anticipating what the potential pitfalls could be. So, for instance, if it is outside, what is the area like? What is the weather like? What are the conditions like? What is the equipment like? What does the activity have in terms of innate danger to it as well? So things like that are things that I have to anticipate as a teacher, where I have a lot of moving parts in a physical education classroom. So I'll give you some examples of personal safety situations that you may run into even this summer as you are away from school and doing things on your own and on free time. If you go boating, if you go to the beach, if you are in a pool, those are areas where you have to have a personal safety situation, knowing and understanding what could be the potential dangers, what could be the pitfalls, and then how do you react to them. Obviously, if you have difficulty swimming, those situations present a whole new set of challenges for you. So that gives you one. Another one would be going to a new area, and depending on the time of day, maybe it's evening, maybe it's afternoon, but it's an area that you may not be familiar with. If you encounter a person, or if you encounter a situation where you are suddenly um, or possess a feeling that you are unsafe, often it is best to have, or proactively plan a way in which you can respond to that situation, so that in order for you to be safe and continue to be safe, that you can get yourself out of that situation. So I'll give you another example. Perhaps I'm driving late at night along a highway and I get a flat tire on my car. Well, one of the first things that I need to do is make sure that I keep myself safe. So I'm going to get my car off to the road as far as I can in an area that is level, where I can, in fact, put a jack underneath. I can raise the tire. I can take the tire off, put the new tire on, and then continue on my way. But you have to consider, is it a lighted area? Do I have to provide my own light? How much traffic is around me? What is the time of day? And what do I do if somebody stops to help me or to assist me? Because there are very well-meaning people in the world that may stop to assist, and it shouldn't necessarily register that they are a danger to you. Um, Another one that you may encounter, and sometimes this happens within interpersonal relationships, is sometimes people will go on what they call a blind date with somebody that they don't know. Well, some of the things that encounter in that particular situation is just being aware of your own um, personal safety, in that, what do you consume? What do you eat? What do you drink? What situations do you put yourself in where you're alone with this person or you're within a group? A lot of times when young people go to college, in fact, having two daughters myself in college and having a son going to college next year, one of the things that I advise our daughters is that every time you go to a social setting and you have something to drink, make sure that you see it poured, make sure that you see it uncapped or opened and given to you directly. Don't take it from somebody, particularly somebody that you don't know, because of the fact that there are certain things that could be ingested through the drink that may cause you harm. So things like that, and just being aware of those situations. A lot of times we see that when we go to college, or when we go into the workforce, or when we get out of our high school setting, there are a number of new social situations that present themselves. So you have to understand and be aware so that we're always keeping ourselves, in fact, safe in those situations. Other things could be as easy as jobs. There are some jobs in the world that are a little bit more unsafe than others. Some that I can think of, particularly in our area, if you work in the shipyards or you work in underwater welding or something to that effect, those present their own innate safety issues within themselves. And as being part of a employee in that type of job, usually you are trained within certain safety matters so that you remain safe. I talked about that initial word, that word being proactivity, making sure that you are always anticipating what those potential dangers could be in that certain situation that you put yourself in. Again, I talked yesterday about, number one, understanding and anticipating. For every situation, it doesn't necessarily have to be a detailed plan, but it just has to be a plan that you understand. And should I have a situation where I am in a potential safety situation, that I can get myself out of it. Secondly is knowing and understanding. And I talked about victim behaviors yesterday. Certain victim behaviors will obviously lead to situations where you may need or may be taken advantage of. I gave the example of my daughters being in college and going to a social situation, a party, a bar, whatever it might be, and making sure that they don't take a drink from, someone that they didn't see open it, they didn't see that it came from, bottle, tap, can, whatever it is, because of the simple fact out there that, we should trust people until they give us a reason not to. But in that case, in many situations where particular young ladies have been taken advantage of, I just don't want young ladies, particularly my daughters, to be putting themselves in that situation. So not exhibiting a victim behavior in that situation would be, I'm not going to take a drink, even if offered to me by someone I don't know. So that is one of those victim behaviors that may come with the territory, but you don't have to elicit yourself into being a victim. And then the last one I talked about is really executing a personal safety plan. And this is more so in a situation where perhaps it's life and death. Let's say, for instance, you are in a mall or you are in a department store, or you are in a store shopping, and there's an active shooter. Obviously we do things like doing active shooter drills in school, but what if I'm in a store? The first thing to understand is there's really three key components. Now, the first is you want to escape. So if I can get out of the store, I can get to a safe place, I can get to my car, I can leave the area. Obviously, that's the first one that I would like to choose. Number two is you would like to, for instance, if the entrances or the doors to the store are not available to you, or you can't get to it because you're in a particular area of the store that doesn't lend itself, then find a way to evade or to hide. The last thing that you want to do, and this is in part just because of your own personal safety and perhaps your own personal strength, your own personal endurance, just your own reaction to the situation itself, where it may be very frightening. The last thing that you should do in any of those situations where there may be potential personal danger is to fight. But in that fact, and I will give you the example that was given to me when I was a graduate student and I had a self-defense class. If you in fact fight, or if you make the decision that that's the only alternative that you do have is to fight, you need to fight with everything that you have so that you remain alive. So if that is the case, knowing and understanding where the vulnerable parts of the human body are, so that it's not about inflicting pain, but it is about inflicting a weakness or taking advantage of a weakness to a person, where in fact it may allow you to escape and to evade and get away from that particular perpetrator. So I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go into Thursday and Friday, and just kind of how you do some of those things. So for instance, in the human body, there are about 5 or 6 very vulnerable areas. So let's talk from head to toe. The eyes, the nose, and the mouth are all areas that are very vulnerable. The groin is another area. Elbows and knees are another area. Fingers and feet can be another area. So for instance, given the example, if I was confronted with a situation where somebody had confronted me with just physical harm, they don't have a weapon or anything like that, I would want to know and understand where the vulnerable parts of the body are, so that in fact I could take advantage and be able to impact that person, be able to limit their ability to continue to fight, and then at that point I would evade and get away from the person. So again, I'll talk a little bit more about that Thursday and Friday, but this has been our lecture number 11, again, on personal safety awareness and a personal safety awareness planning. I hope everyone is doing well. I'll give you another caveat to the lecture. If you still have not turned in your quiz number 2, you still have time to do that and receive full credit for what you earn on the quiz. So those of you who have gotten it in, I applaud you and I appreciate it. I hope all of you are well. I look forward, as I say every day, I look forward to seeing you at some point very soon. And it sounds like perhaps we may be getting to that point, across the country here in certain places. Let's hope it continues that way. Stay safe, be healthy. My best to you and your family. And as always, as I say every day, be great.